Can you? Why is this here? I will also be reading to see what. This is Sonali, the Melodramatic Bookworm. If you've been here before, welcome back, and if you're new to my channel, then welcome to the Melodramatic Bookworm family. I make book related videos on this channel and occasionally a few travel related and a few movie related videos as well, and I post on Tuesdays, Thursdays and Saturdays. So if you find my content interesting, if you feel that you would like to see my videos in the future, then don't forget to hit subscribe and click on that bell icon so that you can stay updated. Today's video is more of a chill, chatty kind of video in which I talk to you about the books I've read so far in September, the books I'm currently reading and the books I'm planning to pick up next, and also a little bit about book Twitter. There's a lot of opinions that I have about book Twitter and how toxic it can get, but I'll just put it off until I finish talking about the books that I want to talk to you about. Okay, so the physical copies that I've read so far this month are Diksha Basu's Destination Wedding, which was okay. I felt it was not that great of a book. It was fun as long as it lasted, but other than that, I didn't find it any more of an interesting story than it actually is. I will talk more about this in the first part of my September reading wrap-up. So if you want to know what I thought about this book, then please stay tuned. The next physical book that I read is one of my favorite books of all time now, and that is The Midnight Library by Matt Haig, and everybody must read it. Like I've gushed about it even in the book haul that I did recently, the August book haul, and I absolutely love this book. I'm in love with it. I love Matt Haig's writing. Matt Haig is one of my favorite people on the planet, and I don't know what else to say. But I will talk more about it in my wrap-up, so please stay tuned for that. Although I have already written a blog post about this book, gushing about it, and if you would like, I'll leave the link in the description box below, so go check that out for reasons to read why this book affected me so much and why you should be picking it up. The next physical copy that I read was Dophehari by Pankaj Kapoor, and this is a beautiful story. I mean, I read this in Hindi, obviously this is in Hindi, and this is so beautiful. This is witty, this is humorous, that makes you feel things, and there's a lot of things to unpack in this 84 pages of this book. So I'll highly recommend this book to you, and please read it. It's also available in English, and if you want to read this story, then that's also a book that you can pick up. It's lovely. I also read some ebooks and an audiobook, and the first audiobook that I read was The Death of Vivek Oji by Akwaeke Emezi, and it was so beautifully written. I love that book. It broke my heart, and I don't know how to put my thoughts into words. I'm dreading the time when I sit to film the wrap-up and I am just lost for words. I don't know how to, you know, talk about it. It's so beautiful. It's so heartbreaking. I mean, I didn't think it would become that way. I didn't think that a fictional character's death could affect me so much, but it did. I know I'm experienced in that manner, but still, you know, we don't learn, no, as bookworms. Fictional deaths are like... Next, I read How to Date Them by Stuart Getty, and it's a visual guide on non-binary pronouns, or pronouns for non-binary people. My only issue with the book, it's not an issue with the author, it's an issue with the publisher or NetGalley, I would say. The formatting is all over the place, and I hate that because it spoils the experience. It spoils the reading experience, and but otherwise it's a great book. It's so informative, and I feel like I will reread this sometime soon. And the sixth book that I completed was Your Soul is a River by Nikita Gill, and you know how I feel about Nikita Gill's books. She just fills me with optimism, energy, strength, like hope. There's a lot of things that she puts in her book and which, you know, resonates with me and which I absolutely love. So that's a book that I finished reading, I think yesterday. Today is the 11th. Yes, I finished reading it on 10th, and I love it. I absolutely love it. It's a full 5 out of 5 stars for me. So now on to what I'm currently reading, and I'm reading 3 books at the moment. It's the first book that I'm reading is Vox by Christina Dalsher. I'm buddy reading this with Ishi over at Ishi Time, and this book is surprisingly easy to read, although I'm not really on board with what is happening in there. I'm on page 134 and I'm like, when is something going to happen? I mean, there are a few characters that are making me feel really strongly in this, but I'm not really sure about the rest. Does that make sense? But yes, this is a sort of a Handmaid's Tale-ish story, although it's not as dystopian as The Handmaid's Tale. I think I've mentioned this before. But the situation for these characters is still bad. Not these characters. The situation for women in this book is still bad. Like 100 words a day. What the hell is that? But so yes, this is one book that I'm reading. I'll put it here so that you can see. The second book that I am currently reading is Fate of Eight by Dheeraj Singh, and I don't want to talk about this book. I'm just 28 pages in, and I am, how do I put it so that nobody gets hurt? I can't. So I'm just going to stay put on this. The third book that I'm currently reading is Migrations by Charlotte McConaghy, and I'm loving this book. Like, I'm listening to it on audiobook on Libro FM, and I love it. I love how the story is progressing, and I love the elements in there. Like, Franny Stone is this you know, scientist kind of person who is following Arctic terns from the North Pole to Antarctica, I think, and her journey through this, and in flashbacks, it's like, why didn't I pick it up sooner? So what I'm planning to read next are 2 books. I don't know if I finish one of these, then I will definitely pick up the other. And one of them is The Catcher in the Rye by J.D. Salinger, and I will be buddy reading this with Nandini, and we've already got a schedule in place when we are going to read how many chapters and when we are going to discuss it and all, and I'm really looking forward to this. Like I've already mentioned in my TBR video. The only problem with this copy is that the font is tiny. Like, I have to do this to read it. Anyway, the second book that I might pick up next once one of these clears up is Joy at Work by Marie Kondo and Scott Sonnenschein, and I'm really excited to read this one. I mean, I've heard from one of my friends that if you've read Marie Kondo's other works, then this is not going to be that you know, that new or something. Like, the stuff is all going to be there from her earlier books, just altered to fit into the workplace. But I haven't read any of Marie Kondo's works, so I think this is going to be a good one, hopefully. And also, I will be reading To Sleep in a Sea of Stars by Christopher Paolini, because, not just because, but I am part of the Bookstagram tour for this book along with some amazing people, and I am so excited to read this book, and it just, you know, made its way into my September TBR. And I'm not even sorry. Like, disrupting TBRs is a thing on my channel in my life, so it's not a big deal, and especially for a book like this, I'm going to accommodate the hell out of this book. If you'd like to keep up with my posts and with the Bookstagram tour, don't forget to follow me on Instagram. The link to my Instagram account, to my page, is in the description box below, as it always is. Like, I am so excited. The news came in just today, like, and okay, so now on to book Twitter. I have thoughts. The thing about book Twitter is that it is super problematic. I can tell you that much. See, the thing about book Twitter is that there are people who are sane, and then there are people who talk complete I don't know, they are self-righteous and they don't understand that what they are saying or doing is harmful to other people. And then there's a little gray area between these two, where sometimes some of the sane people fall into that trap and they talk in a way that makes their earlier sentences, their statements, null and void. See, I will give you examples as we go through this, but this was supposed to be a chill video. This was supposed to be a chill, chatty video. I don't know why I'm getting worked up. Anywho, but since I am on Twitter, it sort of boils my blood that the very people who say that, oh, you have to take others' mental health into account, and people who say this, they are the very people who are literally shaming others for not speaking without knowing what the person is going through. And that grinds my gears, because if you expect people to show you consideration when you are undergoing something, which should happen, like people should show consideration, it should be universal. It can't be that since when you are undergoing something, when you deem it right, people should show consideration, and when you deem it wrong, people should speak up. You should show that same consideration to those people in during that time, right? You can't expect different rules to apply to you and different rules to apply to other people. No, I'm getting it all out today, by the way. See, first of all, book Twitter drama is nothing new. It's been going on for ages and it will go on for ages. Book Twitter is sort of a hell site. You could say it. See, cancel culture has become so run-of-the-mill. It happens almost every day without people waiting to think about how it will affect people and without looking at all sides of the argument. Like, if you want people to listen to your argument before talking anything against you, then you should extend that same courtesy to other people as well, right? But no, there are people who go like, what is the use of all your reading if you are not going to speak up? First of all, do you know what a particular person is going through? If you get offended at blanket statements, then don't fucking do that to others either. You know that saying, practice what you preach? Apply. And another negative aspect of cancel culture is that Twitter has a memory of a snail. Like, something happens today, 2 weeks from now, people will completely forget about it, no matter how passionately they spoke about it at the time. So why are we quick to jump on the bandwagon and give your thoughts about it? And that happened pretty recently as well. If you're not up to date about it, J.K. Rowling has been under fire for some time now because of her transphobic statements, and I hate what she is saying. Like, she invalidated so many people out there, and she's standing by that, and she talks about kindness in her books and she does the exact opposite. Like, how is that supposed to make sense? And there are so many people who support her as well. I don't know if they understand what she's trying to do, or if they would have remained silent or supported her if she did that to their identities as well. I'm not really sure about those kind of people. I mean, what can I say? See, the thing is, that issue cannot be wrapped up in a minute or in just one video. It's a lot of pain that she has caused to, you know, trans people across the world. And to see that people support her statements, it just blows my mind. How can you do that to your fellow human beings? There's a lot more drama that goes on every single day. And there's one other thing that pissed me off yesterday, and that was how the internet is treating Becky Albertalli. She recently came out as bisexual, a cisgender heterosexual woman writing about a queer person. Doesn't make sense. That's what they said. And she wrote a post on, I think, Medium. I'm not sure. I'll leave the link in the description box. But she wrote a whole post about it, and my heart broke as I read it. And there's this one lady on Twitter who's literally saying that if you're closeted and you're writing queer stories, then you should be ashamed of your identity. It literally translates to that. And I lost my mind. Who are you to pressure someone into coming out? Who are you to tell someone what to do? Who are you to question people like that? And the thing about this is that there are so many people who support her. And she's a best-selling author herself, apparently. That's what it says in her Twitter bio, at least. And to see that this is coming from a bisexual woman, I don't think she gets the point that people who are closeted, they are not closeted because they are ashamed. They are closeted because they are scared. This one simple thing, this one simple point that she did not understand, and she created a whole ruckus on Twitter yesterday. I think it's still going on, by the way. And she's just justifying her statements with, she literally took Becky Albertalli's name, and then she says, I'm not taking any names or something of that sort. See, I'm a cishet woman. I'm a cisgender heterosexual woman, and I cannot claim to, you know, even understand the experiences that queer people go through. I'm just trying to be a good person. But when I see people like this invalidating someone else's existence, it boils my blood. Like, how can you do that? How would you feel if someone came up to you and said the same thing? It all boils down to the same thing, right? I've been saying that since this rant that I've been on. How would you feel if that happened to you? Put yourself in their shoes. But does it really have to come down to that? Like, do you really have to, you know, put yourself in that place and imagine the pain on yourself in order to be a better person to someone else? See, it shouldn't come down to that. It's basic humanity, it's basic human decency for you to, you know, be kind to your fellow human beings and not just attack them out of nowhere. See, I'm not saying that her writing Simon versus the Homo Sapiens Agenda I had a problem with, because I love Simon. Like, that book is beautiful in its simplicity, and the exact same thing that happened to Simon is happening to her as well. She is being forced to come out. Like, how can you do that to someone? How can you inflict that amount of pain and mental trauma on someone? Like Becky Albertalli says in Simon versus the Homo Sapiens Agenda, it's only the people who are LGBTQIA plus who come out, who have to come out. Like, straight people, they don't have to. Like, it's assumed, straight is supposed to be the default apparently. There's nothing of this, you know, mental trauma that goes on in like I have to tell my parents that I'm straight. No, it's not. That does not happen, right? So why is it only on the LGBTQIA+ people who, you know, why are they the only people who have to go through this? And why can't people let people be? See, this is the whole thing, right? That's why sometimes I feel like book Twitter is such a toxic place to be in. People don't let people be. Like, people attack without knowing the situation of the other party. See, if a person says something wrong, then you maybe go and talk to them. Don't personally insult them. Don't insult their intelligence or something. But it always happens. Some drama or the other is going on in Twitter, and there's someone or the other being cancelled. Someone has misgendered someone. Why do you do that? Pronouns, they are there on their bios. Just do one click and you'll know what pronouns they use and use them. Oh my god, like, that's a whole different topic altogether that I can go on and on and on about, but I will talk about it in my wrap-up, in the first part of my September wrap-up, in which I will talk about the book called How to They Them by Stuart Getty, and this is going to come out in that. But yes, book Twitter, why are you so problematic? Why are you so toxic? Like I said, sane people, problematic people, grey area. Some sane people sometimes fall into that trap. That happened recently, a couple of months ago, I think, when this whole thing was going around, and many people did not speak about it. And then there were people like, I see that you are liking and retweeting some other tweets, but not about this. Do you know anything about that particular person? Do you know anything what they are going through? Do you know why they are not talking about it? And even if you did, and even if you don't agree with them, it's their prerogative to talk or not talk, or to choose what they talk on their social media platform. You cannot press that onto their mind. You cannot take their mental health in your hands by saying that you have to do this. You are a bad person if you don't talk about this. How do you know they don't talk about it? Just because they don't talk about it on Twitter, does that mean they don't care about it? In what way does your logic work? I don't understand. And subtweeting the hell out of these people when you know that that person will see it, that's another level of trauma altogether. Not trauma, that's a bit of a heavy word, but that's, you're not helping that person. You are one person who says that you need to take people's mental health into account and be more considerate, be more kind, help them, etc, etc, etc. But no, you won't do that, no, because it serves your agenda, it serves your, you know, line of good and bad. Like, it needs to toe that particular line. How does that, like, I know I've gone back to that topic again, but I just can't get my head wrapped around the fact that people can be so inconsiderate, so rude, even the sane people for that matter. Like, you talk about this, otherwise what's the use of your reading? Like, you don't even know me. See, I feel like this is something that has gone on and on for way too long. Like, Twitter is a hellfire. I've been on this platform for I think 11 years now. I've only become active recently, but oh my god, I'm not going to leave that platform, but I'm not going to, you know, conform to these people's things as well. It's not going to happen, I'm sorry. Anyway, so that was episode 3 of Coffee Talk with the Melodramatic Bookworm. What did you think of this video? Did you like it? Did you not like it? What are you currently reading? What have you read in September? What's your favorite book of the year so far? And are you on Book Twitter? Are you regular over there? What do you think of Book Twitter drama? Do you engage in it? And how are you dealing with the whole Book Twitter thing? Let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you. If you like this video, please like it and share it to spread the word. And if you like my content and would like to see more from me, don't forget to hit subscribe and click on the bell icon beside the subscribe button to get notified as and when I post new videos. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Until next time, keep reading, keep watching, and add melodrama to your life.